Marty Allen.
Well, good morning, everyone, and happy holidays.
Happy holiday.
Your board has passed the budget for 2023. It's $8.5 million. $7 million is operating money, and $1.5 million is for capital. And I'm going to highlight some of the things I think you might have an interest in, and then Glenn will give an update on the GM search committee. So we've got $1 million set aside to pave roads next year. That's not all from, that's 3 years worth of money, but we'll be able to do quite a bit of paving with that. We are going to fix the upper pool. So we're going to replace all the pumps, pipes, and whatever it takes to make it almost new. Plus we're going to put a cover on it, and that total cost is $255,000. That'll keep us from having to put in a brand new pool sometime in the future that could cost 7 figures. So that is wonderful. We are going to replace the antiquated computers and server at admin, and that's $40,000. We got $75,000 set aside for dredging. And we got $100,000 set aside for tree removal. It's generally about a $70,000 budget, but we've got $30,000 in to remove some trees down at the dam. So we have budgeted uncommitted operating funds of $167,000 and uncommitted capital in all our capital accounts of $275,000. Cash as of the end of September was $2.7 million cash in the bank. That's not slush money. It's almost all that money is committed, but we're in real good financial shape from a cash perspective. Last thing I want to mention, and I'm really excited about this, is the Land and Development Committee requested $25,000, and we approved it. And what they're going to do is they're going to assemble 4 or 5 really desirable buildable lots. And what I mean by buildable is they're going to take whatever it takes in terms of, this is a great location, but we need to buy this lot, we need to buy this lot, we need to combine them, we need to perk it, and then we're going to have clear title. We'll turn that over to Bentry Realty, and they'll sell it because it's so desirable. We're hoping, and we have pretty good high level of confidence that a house will be built on these lots. So for every house that's built, we can count on $7,351 coming in every single year. That's assessments plus everything else that we spend in here, whether it's at the tavern, golf, whatever. You take that $7,350 next year, and next year for a second house, a third house, and fourth house, and we'll generate some serious revenue from that. So I'm real excited about that project. Any questions?
Yes. How much do you expect to pay for those lots as an individual lot?
Each one's different. Okay, there's a few hundred in the land bank that we'll negotiate for. We're not going to go in and spend $25,000 on a lot. Okay, so the land committee, the people on that committee, and there's one sitting right like that, they know lots like better than anybody. And so it's up to them.
Is there a band?
Excuse me?
Is there a band? Say 5,000 to 10,000?
Well, their total budget is $25,000, and their goal is to create 4 or 5 lots. So they can't spend $15,000 on the lot. Okay.
Artie, yeah, most of these lots are already either owned by Bentry or they're in the land bank, and we'll be able to pick up. Say we got a Bentry lot and there's a land bank lot right next to it. We'll negotiate with the county to get the land bank lot and combine.
Have you thought about, so for example, I purchased 2 lots last year at the tax sale, but there's adjacent properties that are either owned by the land bank or by Bentry, and I'm looking at potentially buying up the other properties, right? Has Bentry looked into selling? Because in other words, I'm not the only person like this, right? There's several other people probably. my point is, have you looked into selling those adjacent lots to existing property owners? Because they may want to expand their property and have,
Absolutely.
right, which is a great one-time outlay. I mean, I know it's not the recurring revenue, but it is some revenue anyway.
Yes, I'll tell you, the lab people are experts at all things lots.
Okay.
So contact the committee is what you're saying, somebody should do.
Go through Deborah Guffey if you've got,
Okay, yeah.
and then
All right.
she'll forward the information to that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Glenn?
The GM, General Manager Search Committee, has identified 2 people we are very high on. One came in 2 weeks ago, spent a couple of days here. I know I was very impressed by him. I'd be very comfortable with him running Ventry right now. We have another one coming in next week for a few days. We're going to be talking to him and showing him the place. The goal, we're hoping that the week after next, the board can start deliberating a choice. So I'm hoping that Christmas present from the board to all of you will be a new general manager by Christmas. Any questions? Volunteers to be general manager? Okay. One other thing, this is a little bit early, but Michael Kahn has agreed to be the Lake and Wildlife Liaison next year. Michael, raise your hand, stand up. Before we see him, Michael, running on. Okay, thank you.
Before I start, I just want to do some thank yous. The executive meeting for the Lake and Wildlife does a great job. You'll see some of that evidence. I hope you see it through the community. Some things that's been done over the last 2 or 3 years, I think has really helped the community a lot and becoming more natural, but also adding some more fun things for us to do around here. The second thing is Dara and Megan have done a great job in leadership. They've got a great supporting cast. 4 more years. Art Tippett is not here, leading our special projects. A yeoman's task. James has helped him a lot back there. I appreciate all these guys. Todd is working now on a special project with the stream at Sally Doss. It's looking good with the volunteers there. Andy, keep Ventry beautiful. Fantastic. A new thing this year was Tamarack Treasures, which is our fundraising. And Marietta. I'd be remiss in not mentioning the Ventry Foundation because they provide a way for us to no-date as a for tax purposes. And most of those things come back through Lake and Wildlife in a lot of different ways, and you'll see that. In addition to that, the board. The board has been very supportive of all that we do. And this year they committed $30,000 to the lake. That's great. So I appreciate all of those. Thank you. This year we started the year with $8,361. That's good. If it's got a plus sign in front of it, it's good. We do not deficit spend here. But this year, due to the fundraising activities and things like that, we have added net to our pot of $15,655. I know we used to do the yard sale down at the campgrounds, which raised $6,000 to $7,000 a year. Now that was in $1980, so you know. But Tamarack Treasures has done a great job of sort of replacing that. I'm not gonna say anymore. It's on video.
And there she is.
Queen of Tamarack.
Oh, are we supposed to?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, you need to thank all my elves too. Many of them don't have outfits on today, but. Thank you, ladies.
Just some highlights here. Our funds that we use comes through many different sources. It comes from the board of Bentry, BTCI, Bentry Corporation, comes through Bentry Foundation, and it comes through fundraising and donations that we make to Lake and Wildlife directly. And it's a lot of money. If you look up here, this year, we've had financial oversight of about $185,000.
Wow.
Now, I say that loosely. I said that because 100,000 of that was 102,000 came through the foundation, which is really Colin's oversight. Okay, so that was the money that was raised for the all accessible walkway that was put in early this year and has been used by a lot. How many people use it? A lot of people. Anyway, so we spent $102,000. This is my file, believe it or not. We have about 9,000 left in that account, based on what Colin told me this week. So we're looking at some point in the future of extending that walkway, maybe, or something. And so we started. It'll take another fundraiser to really get it off the ground. 9,000 won't go a long way with that. It cost us about 92,000. We raised 102. We have several projects that were financed through BTCI. The walking trail at the pavilion, which you have not seen because it hasn't been done, but they've donated $2,500 for us to improve the way to walk around the beach area. We're going to concentrate mostly on the area going down by the pavilion, down to the dock, which is just a wash. We're going to work on that next year probably and spend most of that money. We've got the Chestnut Cove Trail, which has been developed, starting to be developed. It's just in the start phases. But we cut out some trees, got ready to put in the parking area there. We've already blazed a little bit of the trail. But that has potential of being a long trail for Bentry. And that's something we don't have. Most of our trails are a half mile long. We're also working at Sally Doss and Beaver Run. If you know the bridge that used to be at Beaver Run is about to fall apart. And we went in and replaced that with a culvert and landscaped it, put in the rock wall there. I think it looks a lot better and will probably last a lot longer than any bridge we could have put in to do that. We also looked at the bridge down at Sally Doss, the Arc Bridge. That bridge is fine. It was washing out underneath. So we've gone in and fixed that. And as part of that project, we're beautifying that stream bed down through there, if you've seen that lately. And there's a lot of rock down there, like about 8 pallets that need to be laid out. So she's gonna be calling you. But I wanted to say that, those are special projects that we have, but then we have a lot of ongoing things that we do as Lake and Wildlife. And it's educational programs, it's maintaining all the trails, things like that we do, that we fund, totally funded by Lake and Wildlife. And we appreciate all of you for volunteering and helping to do that. There can be a lot more said about what we do by everybody else, so I'm not going to say about that. But one more thing is that we're going to be carrying over about $25,000 into next year. And that's fantastic. That's about what I got for 8,000. 25,000 is a lot more than that. If we maintain the fundraising we did this year, next year, we'll have about $54,000 in our pot. And we've got a lot of projects we're looking at. This number is wrong, but that number is right. We're looking at a lot of projects for next year. And if we do all those projects, which is about $39,000 worth, we'll still have about $15,000 indicated for 2024. Now, these are just placeholders because a lot of your input is being requested. Some things we committed, one thing we're doing this year with the help of Venture Foundation and donations is the lake rejuvenation project. Bentry Community has donated, has pledged $30,000. We've got about $25,000 in personal pledges going through the foundation. And then in Bentry, we have pledged $5,000 of that. So it'll be $60,000 this year to work on probably a 3-year project to rejuvenate the lake or revitalize the lake with fish and fish habitats, things like that. HUF is sort of leading that. We appreciate him doing that. So you see, there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of things will be going on next year. So we appreciate you being here, appreciate your involvement in all we do. We do maintain a very good detail on the finances, and hopefully we'll get that on the website at some point. So it's going to be available with a new website that we keep you abreast of all the money, so you can see it rather than assume that I'm telling you the truth. Anyway, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that Rick came up and, since we're dealing with bigger sums of money, you know, he's great with spreadsheets. What did you lose, Rick? What you got, your name tag? Your name tag, okay. And so it's important that people realize we are keeping track of all the money. We know where it's going and who's doing what with it, and that it's planned for. And so, anyway, that's one of the main reasons for these slides, is so that you realize the level of oversight we have of the financial end. Okay, so I'm just going to run through these real quickly because I think Rick touched on most of them. And most of our time today we're going to spend on looking forward to 2023, not looking back at 2022. Hopefully most of you are coming to our Lake and Wildlife Party next Wednesday, the holiday party, and we'll do a lot more reflection and celebrating of achievements of 2022 in that forum. But just quickly, the All Access Trail, which opened in June, that was a huge achievement, and we're very proud of that. Tamarack Treasures fundraising success story, which is really enabling us to move forward confidently. We've spent a lot of time this year in what I'll call asset maintenance. You know, the current Lake and Wildlife team inherited a set of assets, bridges and benches and swings and tables and structures that have been in place by all of the wonderful Lake and Wildlife folks who came before us. And all these things need to be maintained. They need to be replaced and refinished and repaired and as needed. And so paying attention to that was a focus of this year as well. I don't know, but anybody noticed more blackberries than they'd seen in years and more roadside? I loved how the community started to come to life again on the roadsides and the hillsides without the power companies spraying. So that was just a wonderful thing to see, that growth and vegetation back and not the big swaths of brown, and the power line maintenance that it took to maintain that, under the power lines. And that's going to be some work on our part as a community to keep up with that, but well worth it. The Keep Bentry Beautiful zone improvements in the pollinator zones we've added, I think have really been a beautification experience. Some places where we've learned, like, you're just not going to get there, right, Andy? Just can't do it, can't keep it watered, can't keep the deer off, can't whatever, in some places. We're learning where those places are and putting in hardscaping and other things there. The educational programs, the Blue Ridge Raptor program was very well received, having the DNR come and Georgia Audubon. These were really important this year. And I felt like in 2022, we kind of returned to normal, right? We had our face-to-face meetings. It's almost hard to think about where we were back in the past couple of years, the whole COVID black hole of COVID, and not that we're not completely out of it as a world, right? But we're pretty much returned to normal in terms of the things that we're able to do. I wanted to point out, because Megan, one of Megan's roles, thank you, is to keep up with volunteer hours, and that's pretty much like herding cats to get us to gift that data to keeping track of that. We have reported close to 1,000 volunteer hours, and this is not the fundraising and the administrative meeting work. This is the actual labor. This is plants and trail maintenance and cutting down little pine trees, monitoring the streams, doing the deer count, all of those things that we do. That's the real work, the value added work to the community. That's almost 1,000 hours this year, and about 70 people have been involved in that, in those efforts. So again, our December 7th holiday party is going to feature a year in review, but I'm interested in how people have tracked along with Lake and Wildlife this year. You may have noticed on your chair a trivia game. If you haven't looked at it, who's already done it? All right, those of you who haven't, I want you to pick it up, take a look at the trivia game. This first page in the little packet, one of the sheets, and you should have a pen by you, because we're going to go through the trivia game. So just take a few minutes and complete your trivia, because if you attended all the meetings, watched them on YouTube, ask your friends and neighbors what they were about, this should be fairly straightforward. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to complete the trivia.
I have a question about what you said earlier. How much money did you raise from the Tamarack Treasures?
I think the Tamarack Treasures between the two events was 18?
Net was about,
Net, okay.
Okay, thank you.
about 18,000.
Yeah.
Is that
Right, that's a lot.
Yes, it was incredibly
Thank you
successful.
for buying it.
Well, I bought one thing.
I don't know if you know this or not, but one thing we learned last year is that we have to pay taxes, sales tax, on everything that we fundraise. Whether it's tickets or it's a new thing, we have to pay taxes. This year, we're gonna pay $1,991 of taxes.
Is that what you take taxes?
Now, that sounds bad, but that's how much money we pay. So, anyway, we'll pay it to Bent Tree, and they'll handle everything.
All right, let's go through it. And I'm looking for 90 to 100% scores, okay? There's prize table in the back for 90 or 100% scores. Honor system. True or false? There are 5 zones in the Bent Tree water system.
True.
True. Actually, I'm gonna let you get away with false on, true or false on this one, because someone in admin pointed out to me that the villas is sometimes referred to as zone 6. I didn't double check that, so true or false?
True.
Check, you got that. Okay. The screech owl is the biggest owl you might see in Bent Tree.
False.
False, that's right, that's a small owl, the great horned owl, right? Good. Lake Tamarack took 6 months to fill in 1971.
True.
That is true, that's right, that was from Chris Felt's history talk.
Oh, yeah.
Our fishery improvement plan will add bream and bass to Lake Tamarack.
True.
True, from the man himself, that is a true statement, that is the focus of the fishery improvement, bream and bass. Or bluegill. Yes, if you were thinking bluegill, same as bream, or brim, I don't know, you have to be a fisherman to understand this. All plants that grow are equally beneficial to wildlife. False. Oh, good, yes. Good job. And stiltgrass is detrimental to. KBTB stands for?
Beautiful.
Yes, awesome. Lake and Wildlife's newest and most successful fundraiser is? Very good. Okay, multiple choice. Bent Tree trails are Memorial Garden. All of the above. Perfect. E. That's all those are our trails. The Bent Tree stream keepers follow processes defined by
Georgia
Adopt a Stream. That's B. That's correct. And last one. This wildlife species has not been confirmed by Lake and Wildlife to be in Bent Tree in the past year. Feral hogs, that's right. If y'all heard Eldon's talk on feral hogs, that's true. Okay, how many people got 90 or 100%? Awesome. Okay, there is a prize table in the back. Some wonderful things. Go pick yourself out something before you leave today. There's some safety gear for if you walk, brightly colored things if you're walking on the road. Some cards, or the cards here that we're selling. So just you'll go back there and look and you'll see it. So thanks for playing along, and I hope that you learned something this year from Lake and Wildlife and enjoyed coming, and we'll keep teaching you next year. All right. So now we're going to turn to 2023 and our leadership team for 2023. Okay, so this is who will be leading Lake and Wildlife this coming year. Brian Vassar and myself as co-chairs. Megan got a new job that's taken a lot of her time, and so she's stepping aside as co-chair, and Brian has stepped up to that. So Brian, come on up. Come on up here, Brian. Let's see, treasurer, Rick Patterson will continue as treasurer. Where's Rick? Want to come on up? Our secretary, taking over for Mary Jane, big shoes to fill, is Carolyn Lahat, and she's not able to be here this morning, but she's been a great help. Eldon Bonnet as wildlife chair, continuing. Come on, we get to keep all of that wonderful knowledge and experience that he offers. Fundraising, Marietta Kidd continues in that role as fundraiser. Huff, come on up, Lake and Streams chair. Awesome. Art Tippett is also not here. Rick mentioned him for special projects, and he's just an awesome addition to the team. Trails, is Laurel here? No. Okay, so she couldn't be here this morning. Laurel Lunsford is asked to be replaced. She's been at it for 3 years and just wants to take a break. She wants to stay involved in the trail maintenance, but we're looking for a co-chair lead or for this subcommittee for trails. Special events is Luann Chambers. Come on up, Luann. Forest conservation, I continue to play in that role. If anybody wants to be involved, please let me know. When I step out of the co-chair role, I hope to stay involved in forest conservation. That's where my heart is. And I call them our welcome committee. Oh, Andy, where's Andy?
Bottom left.
Oh, I was like, I didn't leave you off, did I? Sorry, Andy. Megan Wandry. So she said she doesn't need a title. She's going to be a regular partner, but she's not just a regular partner. She's an awesome help. She keeps our volunteer hours, manages our t-shirt distribution, does a great job of checking in. So our welcome committee, Megan Wandry, come on up, Megan. Our sunshine committee, Mary Jane, come on up. Mary Jane has a wonderful way with words, sends out our cards for sunshine, gives us a lot of historical perspective, and is always there to help us stay on track. Hiking, Jan Jeffcoat and Dick Kilpatrick. The positions at the bottom are non-voting members, if you wonder why they're down there, but they're very integral into Lake and Wildlife. These are the folks that don't want to come to the executive meetings. And we've added a new function this year, John Hoppy, who is our videographer, who has done a wonderful job in making sure that people who can't come to the meetings can still enjoy the content. So this is the team of people who are leading Lake and Wildlife, making all this happen, along with you as our partners. So I think in old school Lake and Wildlife Forum, there used to be, and we're going to bring it back, a vote among the partners to accept the leadership team. As I understand it used to work this way. Wayne, can you speak to that? So do I have a motion from the floor to accept this leadership team?
So moved.
So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome, Doug, thank you.
Good job.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our 2023 priorities, and Eldon, this is you. You're first, because I know you have some commitments you need to go to, so each subcommittee lead is going to talk a little bit more about our priorities for 2023.
Okay, thank you. Wildlife Committee. I want to thank the 5 members I've got on the committee, Gerald Hunter, Bob Rizzuto, Robert Chambers, and Calvert Huffhines, commonly known as Huff. Anyway, looking forward to 2023, one of the projects that we're gonna be working with the DNR and the US, and the University of Georgia on a deer management program that one of their graduate students is heading up. And they've identified 5 communities to work with that have problems similar to ours with deer management. And they're getting the program set up, and we hope to have our first contact with them in the spring. And they will be visiting Bent Tree and looking at our deer situation and help us manage deer in the future. We're going to continue our annual deer counts. We do that in the fall and winter. So we're going to continue that next year. And we do that in support of public safety, who is charged with that responsibility of doing an annual deer count. So we help them do the count, and we give them our recommendation based on the counts. We're going to continue monitoring the geese. As you know, this past year we've used the USDA guys to get rid of some geese. Worked great, but it's expensive, and I'm working with Mike Corey looking at other options. There's a lot of commercial products out there that you can use to keep geese off of your property, and a lot of them are just products that you can buy, and there's a lot of voodoo options out there people have used to try to get rid of geese. But and there are some that are very effective, but some that we probably don't want to consider. We're going to continue monitoring feral hogs in the area. Fortunately, as you saw in the trivia, none have been confirmed this past year. They are very close. There's a lot on Eagle's Rest, so that's bordering our property. So we're going to continue monitoring that. Anytime we get a report of somebody having seen something, we check it out. We're going to keep abreast of wildlife activity in North Georgia. Any issues with wildlife that is reported in the North Georgia area that might impact us, our committee looks into it, and we check it out. But and we're going to continue some of the customized educational programs like we did on Barrowwise and feral hogs for the coming year. And basically the wildlife committee is just going to continue keeping an eye on the wildlife in Bent Tree. All our birds, snakes, coyotes, bobcats, raccoons, possum, armadillos, squirrels, turkeys. And if you follow next door, we got mountain lions, we got black panthers, so we're gonna keep an eye on that.
Bigfoot.
Anyway, our wildlife is plentiful and healthy, and thanks for your help. Thanks.
All right, next is Half, you're going to talk a little bit about lake and streams, the stream monitoring, and fishery improvement. We just have one slide, I think.
Okay. I've got a little trivia question for you, though I had mentioned this earlier. This is a number that probably hadn't stuck in your mind, but it's important to understand it. What do you think the ratio is between acres of watershed that come into the lake? For every 1 acre of lake, how many acres of watershed do you think they come in? This is a ratio.
10.
Anyone else?
50.
50. You get the A. 50.
Wow.
You get a D, sir. I don't fail anybody. 50 to 1. So for every, we have a 110 acre lake, so take that times 50. 50 acres of watershed for every 1 acre lake. That is one of the reasons, one of the biggest reasons why we can't fertilize or lime the lake, which would be an important aspect of having the perfect fishery in a lake. So we are taking some other steps. One step is that we have very little habitat in the lake. Years ago, there were thousands of grass carp put in the lake. I can tell you, I caught one the other day. It pulled my boat for about 20 minutes. Usually don't catch them, but somehow he bit. So they're about at the end of their life stream, and but when they are, we'll probably have to put a few more in there because we have to monitor the grass in the lake, but not denude the bottom of the lake so there's no fish habitat. So our project actually starting this year because some of the funds are private funds, and we're going to be buying some fish habitat structures, which look like that. That's one example of one. That's more for a little bit of a deeper, 7 to 10 foot. We're going to have a significant amount of water habitat structures that will be for the fry, the bluegill, and the small fish that are feeding the bluegill and the bass. So in 2023, we will have already 3 feeders on each of the 3 docks here at Bent Tree. I'm putting them out pretty soon I've got a bear thing on there, so when someone at night approaches it, lights go off, and it's kind of a dog barking thing, and I'm going to try. We'll see how that works. And so we're going to try three out. If that does work, we've had a number of people along the lake say, "We'll buy one. We'll monitor it," and we could have as many as 15 or 20 feeders out there, which would be wonderful. When we do in the spring put out then the brim, which will be year 2023, we're also going to be putting out a substantial amount of the lowest cost food for the bass, and that's crawfish, the live food. And so crawfish will take the bass's attention away from the brim that we're stocking. And next year, in 2024, we're going to stock bass along with crawfish. By that point, the bluegill would be big enough to fend for themselves. And we create those spawning habitats to create a recycling of the bluegill and the bass. And hopefully then with the habitat structures, the feed structures, the additional stocking, we'll be able to bring fishing back to Lake Tamarack as it once was. I also want to mention the lakes and streams, the streams aspect of lakes and streams. Brian, of course, has been one of our leaders here at monitoring. That's a very important aspect of Bent Tree. We get our drinking water out of the lake about 6 months out of the year. And fortunately, we have excellent people who are monitoring the streams. That is now a permanent, full-time, will always be part of our structure to keep an eye on the water quality, which is quite excellent, by the way. We have wonderful water quality, but all it takes is something upstream on that 50 acres coming into one of our acres that could create a problem. You don't know the problem unless you monitor it. So I want to thank Brian and the other group, and we have wonderful members of our lake and stream committee. Eldon is one, of course. I've got Gerald Hunter, James Smith, Art Tippett. Everyone has contributed to this, and I want to thank Artie and any other board members that might be here for funding the regeneration of the fishing this year and next year in 2024 as well. It's a 2-step process. I'm pleased to say we have raised $25,000 in private funds, and they have matched basically that with some overrun from the previous year. And the board's commitment to the lake and the regeneration, restoring the fishing, thank you, has been very, very helpful. And I want to tell the board how much we appreciate that. So we're well on the way to taking your grandchildren and children out there to catching fish every time they go, and to producing a fishery that will restore itself year after year after year. Are there any questions?
What does one of those things cost?
This one here is probably be about $250. I'm gonna spend, I say I, because I'm in charge of doing the spending with the committee. I'm gonna spend probably this year, at least $6,000 on some of those habitats. They're different types. There's some that look like bushes. There are a few that look like cages where the little fish can get in and keep away from the larger fish. There's some for deeper water. That's sort of a 7 to 10 foot one there. And over the next 3 years, we could continue to add to that habitat. Any other questions?
Did the crawfish, if you put the wrong kind of minnows in the lake, you sometimes get strange fish. Does
Right.
crawfish pose any threat?
No, that's the reason that they're recommended, is that not only do they not pose any threat, but during the winter, when the fish are dormant or not feeding well, they're burying in the mud and reproducing and so forth, and they come back out in the spring when the fish start feeding well. So it really, they start reproducing as well and create that food for the fishery. So it's another reason it's been recommended.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
What's your opinion on dropping live Christmas trees?
I don't think much of it, and I'll tell you the reason why. On a real deep lake, where you drop them down, Lake Marion, lakes, wherever, you put them down 40 or 50 feet, like any other lake, they deteriorate in about 6 months. And so what you're left with then is nothing but another log and a few stems that catch lures and jumps up the lake. These are permanent. And not only that, but if you'll notice these wings here, they don't catch lures.
Oh.
That's nice. Secondly, they grow grass and moss and so forth on it. That's the reason I want to put some in this year to start that process going. So this makes up for the Christmas tree idea. And we've got plenty of logs in the lake. It's interesting, when I was fishing not long ago and the lake was very low, I got a plethora of lures off logs that had exposed themselves or people had lost. So there's, you don't need to junk up the lake with Christmas trees. They work great for 6 months, but that's it. So these are here forever. Unfortunately, plastic lasts forever. So, but that's what we're going to be using. So, any other questions? Well, thank all of y'all for your interest in this sport.
All right, next we're gonna talk about the forest conservation, and what I'll say about that is the forest is a habitat. The forest is a habitat for our wildlife. I kind of like this quote that said, if a plant that hasn't fed something hasn't done its job. So that's the environment that we're trying to support by controlling invasive plants. There have been a few reports of kudzu that's made its way into Bentry, and that's obviously something we need to really get a handle on. There's a few places with things like tree of heaven, which is really more like tree of hell, and it's not something that we want here. And so invasive plant control and putting in place a structure to identify where these things are. Y'all all know about my love for stiltgrass, but there are other things, besides that we need to keep an eye on here. And the power line maintenance, is another thing that falls under forest conservation in terms of making sure that the right kinds of trees grow in the right places. And pine trees along the roadside are something that we don't want. And pine trees in general, we try to minimize them at Sally Dawson and places because they just grow so fast and they don't offer a whole lot of good habitat or food mass for the wildlife. Native planting is something that I have a personal passion for, along with some other folks in Bentry, and we're trying to introduce those where appropriate. I mean, sometimes the problem with native plants can be, they have this synergistic relationship with our wildlife, which means they get eaten by our wildlife very readily. So it's a balance to find, but we are trying to create pollinator zones and introduce those plant species back into the forest where we can. And that overlaps with Keep Bentry Beautiful, and I'll turn it over to Andy. So the native planting and the pollinator zones, and you'll notice in many of our committees, we intertwine, and I think that's one of the real strengths of this leadership team is we work great together as a leadership team and supporting each other where projects and ideas cross the subcommittees.
Great. How many people have seen the pollinator signs? Pollinator zone signs, wonderful, great. There's one at the back gate, down by the pump house on Sally Doss. We do our spring and fall plantings. Our mission is to use volunteers such as yourself to maintain our designated common areas with a spring planting and a fall planting, Christmas decor, and keep those areas maintained. We're going to move towards some more hardscaping because, like Dara had mentioned earlier, there are some places that we can't keep the deer out. And it also is too bright, so we can't have some nice flowers. So that's what we do. We have noticed, how many people have noticed the Deodora cypress cedar tree that has fallen in the recycle area? The recycle, in front of the recycle. We have a gorgeous tree that was planted there when the recycle center was started. It's now falling every time we have a windstorm. The root ball is now busted. It will die. So we are going to use some of our fundraising to buy us 1 or 2 more cedar trees or some type of plants there, tall trees for that area. That's what we do. And we run poinsettia sales. That's one of our fundraisers. We also do Whispering Springs Nursery in the spring. We do several others. So there you go. Questions?
How many poinsettias did you order?
We had 180 units. So I think that's pretty good. A little down from last year. So,
Wow.
But that's okay.
And I think there were 6, right? There were a few that were ordered more, we bought more than what was ordered. So if you didn't order any, but you want one, there's a few
We
extras.
have a few extra this
Yeah, you
year,
can pick
because we
one
did
up.
order extra. So if you want, as you leave, go see my wife out there, or the elves that are working. I see these volunteers that have been working with KBTV all season, all year long. I want you to give yourselves a round of applause, and those folks, everybody, give them a round. In fact, we had 22 people working 4 hours 2 days ago putting up all the Christmas decor. So that's amazing. It's just great. We have lots of great volunteers.
All right, now Brian is going to speak to our trails priorities for 2023 and special projects.
Thank you. Good morning. Laurel obviously wasn't able to be here, and as you know, was looking for a replacement. So, as mentioned, and Dara mentioned, if you're interested at all in the trails, which everybody is, leadership is very important. And I just want to mention that Laurel's done a great job, and leadership is really a leader position because you're working with different committees, helping each other, whether it's Keep Bentry Beautiful or it's forestry. So whoever takes that position, you're not going to be out there on your own. You'll be working with other people that give you a lot of support, volunteers, and help. So don't be scared of it if you're interested at all. And that's the pitch.
Yeah, we'll give you a rake and a pile of mulch. No.
The Bears pipes.
Do you want to go to the trail?
Yeah, thank you. This is the new Chestnut Cove system that you see up there, and it's really neat. I drove up there to see it myself, and this is our big project for 2023. Down below is where you have the start of it there, and then it'll move up. As you know, it's rough all the way up there, and then in the yellow is where the new trail will be up to the High Vista Trail and up all the way to the elevation of 2,400 feet, which is quite a ways up. And I think it's going to be one of the longest trails. And there's a lot of volunteer work being done. Rick's coordinating a lot of the work with this trail in parking areas. And as Dara mentioned earlier to me, this is going to be a trail that we won't do a lot of maintenance on. It's going to be a rough trail. It's a high elevation. It is not a beginner's trail. And so once it's done, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be fun. But again, this is going to be something that's brand new for next year, and already has been started with a lot of volunteer work and some volunteer donations to really help us through this. I think also what we've worked on is Sally Doss, the trails, and the work there. And there was a lot of volunteers out to deal with that. But also, this is the rock and all the other material that was brought in. That is the old culvert underneath the road on Tamarack. That is what it looks like today. That is a lot of work. 10, 12, 14 people, all with sore backs the next day, but we sure did a good job. Kenny and I were talking earlier how we were sore the next day, and we just aren't that young anymore, but we had a lot of fun. And that goes along under the bridge, around the bridge, and down around the trail, and the stream's been moved a little bit just to give it flow and proper flow, not going underground. So if you haven't seen it, it's beautiful. And I guess we can move on from there.
Let's see, we gotta go back. Let's see, how do I go back?
That's all right.
Back. There you go.
So that's Sally Doss, Chestnut Cove, and of course, maintaining the trails and moving forward to make sure they're clear and clean. Special projects, right?
Yeah, so the only other special projects, a lot of work that Art does with special projects is supporting other teams, coordinating with other teams. But they will be working on the boat storage area dock. So that's a little bit of funds that have been approved by the board also to buy the wood. So that's replacing the dock, the top of the dock where, at the boat storage area where there's some rotten boards and needs to be some work there. So sort of a repair, can't say it either, rejuvenation of the boat storage dock.
Yeah.
James?
It will be the complete resurfacing of that dock like we did with the other two docks earlier back in 2020.
Okay.
So everything will come off the top of that dock and it will be completely redone all the way from beginning to end. That will probably be in the spring.
Perfect. Thank you, James.
Fantastic.
All right.
I'm sure there'll be other ones that come along, but those are the major ones for 23.
Yeah, those are biggest parties. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome, thanks.
All right, so Mary A to talk a little bit about fundraising in 2023.
Okay, we are planning to do 2 Tamarack Treasures again in 2023. One will be in May and one will be in October. We are especially collecting in January 13th any of your Christmas items that you have outgrown or no longer need. So it's just a one-day collection from 10:30 to 11:30?
11:30.
Okay. And, pardon me?
When?
January 13th. It will be in the Friday news as well. We do hanging baskets in the spring still. We'll continue that with the poinsettias in the Whispering Springs. A couple of things I want to mention is that we do have a group now that's formed called that repurpose items that come in that aren't maybe up to where we want them to be or need to be restyled to be more modern. And so if you're interested in crafting or doing anything like that, we'd love to have you join us. Just come see me about it. And my little elf has a message too.
You probably already heard when they talked about the finances how incredibly successful Tamarack Treasure was this year. And if you haven't already, thank you so much because there were so many people that donated, that volunteered, that purchased from us, that spread the word. And so thank you. As we are planning for the 2023 sales, we're looking at tweaking things to make them even more outstanding than it was this year. One of the challenges that we will have moving forward is where we store all this stuff year-round. So the stuff that we're collecting January 13th, we have an amazing member of the community that she and her husband allow us to fill all of their spare space with donations from the community. However, we're going to outgrow that space at the rate we're going. So we are looking for ideas and suggestions from the community. If y'all know of a place that's secure, that's close by, that we can store donations that we receive throughout the year, particularly things like we were blessed with tables and end tables and settees and chairs this year. They take up a lot of space. So think about it. If there's some place that you know of that you would think we should consider or look at, we would love to hear from you. We've racked brains and are really struggling on where we go from here. So Mary Ada would be the contact person on that. So again, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Deb. Luann.
How much money did they make on that spring sale?
They made across the two about 18,000. About 18,000 between the two.
Alrighty, so Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, the 7th, is our holiday party. And if you by chance have forgotten or did not sign up and want to get signed up, we have a few spots open. So if you did sign up, remember it starts at 5:30 with appetizers and the bar. And they will be doing a specialty Lake and Wildlife drink for us at the bar here. And it'll be a cash bar with alcohol, wine, and beer. And soda for the few of you that don't want alcohol. We'll also have coffee and iced tea and that normal stuff and water. Bar and appetizers start at 5:30 and then dinner starts at 6:15. And everything will be downstairs so we don't have to go up and down the steps. All right, that's this coming week. Then, next year what we've decided is we probably will move the employee luncheon from the fall to the spring because we can get in a little bit earlier. The guys don't like to try to do it in the summer because they're so busy with mowing and yard work things and just a lot of repairs. So they'd rather have spring or fall, and fall gets kind of crazy with all the other activities going on here in Tamarack Treasures. So we're probably going to try to put it into the spring. And we just work with, mostly we work with Michael and admin to find a date that's not got something on the schedule that's going to conflict for the employees. And the other thing we will have again will be the fish fry. And it looks like we're doing June 14th. That's a Wednesday. So that's a long ways out, but we always have to make sure it's when Eldon and his fish frying guys can be available. So they're good on the 14th, and that gives us a little time after Tamarack Treasures to recoup before we do the fish fry. And then, of course, we'll have a holiday party again next year, and every month, donuts and coffee. So please come back. There's extra donuts. Last month, we about wiped out on donuts. This year, everybody must be full from Thanksgiving yet because there's extra donuts. So come on back and get a donut and coffee. And just so y'all know, too, we have switched. The decaf is not because we haven't been able to get it that way yet. But the regular coffee is the shade-grown, bird-friendly, organic, free trade coffee from the Audubon Society. We did find out we can buy that same type of coffee from Red Bean in town. So after we run out of all this, we'll get it from right in town. But so we're trying to walk the talk.
That's right.
So, Mary Jane?
Can you remind us that we should bring a donation for CARES?
Yes, thank you. For our party on Wednesday, we will have a box for CARES Food Bank. And then Andy will have CARES Food Bank again at the Christmas concert the following Wednesday. So be sure to bring something for the CARES Food Bank. All right, anybody else questions? If you do want to sign up for the dinner for Wednesday, and actually, just so you know, we're not doing turkey and ham. Chef Tulio is doing a beef entree, sliced beef, and also a chicken entree instead of turkey and ham. Okay, thank you.
And I'm not sure if it's last, but not least for sure, Jan Jeffcoat of the Hiking Club.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We want to say that happiness is hiking with friends, and this year we had about 9 events that we were able to fit in amongst the weather forecast, and we've got a plan for next year. Some of the events that we did in 2022 were educational. We didn't just always hike, but we went to see Project Chimps and learned about their rescue efforts that they have with the chimpanzees that were used for medical research. That was very interesting. We also just recently did Tate Mountain Estates, and we had a historian there that gave us a lot of information about Pickens County and some things that happened there in the past. We did have an overnight in Henderson, North Carolina. We spent a couple of nights up there. And we're going to do some of the same things this year. We're still in kind of a planning stage for 2023, but we've got some overnight hikes and we've got some very local hikes. So if you're interested and you're not involved with us, just get in touch with me. We have an email address and I'll get in touch with you that way. I do want to say that sitting here listening about all the efforts that all the committees through Lake and Wildlife put together, that tends to come back to us as hikers because we can walk through this beautiful area that has a lake and has wildlife and has trails that we can go on. So I encourage you, if you're not a hiker, just get outside, go look at the lake, go look at the wildlife as they come through your yard. Because I read a quote the other day, it says, it's by John Burroughs, it says, "I go to nature to be soothed and healed and to have my senses put in tune once more." Let me read that again because it's important. "I go to nature to be soothed and healed and to have my senses put in tune once more." So if you think about it, that's what we need. We're so busy and we work so hard. Let's stop and take a moment to reap the benefits that this area has for us, to heal us, to make us healthy. I think the walkway is a prime example of giving an opportunity for people that might not have been able to get out, to come out on a platform, on a trail-like area. So just keep that in mind. Take time for yourself. Enjoy all the benefits from Lake and Wildlife. Thanks. We have one more event this year, December. It's coming up this Thursday. It is the 8th. It is called the Sally Long Memorial Moonlight Hike. We have done this hike on the back 9 holes of the golf course for many years now, and this year we're going to honor a memory of Sally Long. We'll meet at 6:30 behind the tavern, and we'll probably leave about 6:45. It is a silent hike. Bring your flashlight, dress warmly, and we hope to see you there. Thanks.
And for anybody who's scared of a silent hike, there is always a group that lags way behind, chattering the whole way. They just can't do it. So feel free to join them. Bob Coleman will probably be in that. My husband Kenny, I don't know who else here, will be in that group. So that's an option for you. So this is our the last point. There is a survey on your chair. It is our way of trying to get feedback from everybody about what kind of programs you want to see, where you want to see Lake and Wildlife focused. So please take the time to fill that out. If you didn't do it today, take it home with you, leave it in the mail center, leave it at admin. We'll find our way. We'll get it. We'll also have copies at the party, and I'm working on putting it online too on SurveyMonkey. But it's an opportunity for feedback. So your feedback is highly valued as we plan programs for next year, and how you can help. So you've heard about a lot of opportunities, and I know y'all hopefully y'all get our emails. But I've had a set of people who said to me, I really want to do things, but I can't do Saturday morning. I've got the kids. I've got a part-time job. Sometimes we plan things and it rains. So people who want to do on their own time, at their own convenience, they want to contribute. So I've created our version of an angel tree, and it's in the back, along with the prize table. So that's where you're going to go to get your prize for your trivia, and you'll see the angel tree, and there's some tasks written on it. They are discrete, simple, one-time type tasks that you can take and complete at your own convenience, in your own time, with whatever set of people you want to take with you, or do alone, or with a family, or your neighbors, or your best friend. And so it's just a way of providing that opportunity for folks to pitch in and enjoy the feeling of contribution and the rewards you get from giving back. And doing it at your own convenience. So take a look at that, grab a task if you are interested. And anyway, so that's that. So I think that wraps it up don't forget to get your prizes, don't forget to leave the survey, check out the angel tree. Thank you for coming. Thank you.